Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also download from that page a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through the worksheet process, and if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you do that, before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, please do so. If you're available to join us live, you can go to zoom.us and then enter the meeting ID number 853-2357-4173. Or you can go to zoom.us and find a phone number and dial that number and then enter this meeting ID number, 853-2357-4173. And if you're doing that through the phone, then you can just hit *6 to toggle in and out of mute if you want to speak up and share in the conversation. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody does that because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. And the intention we have with this work is to be of service. And that's just so much easier to do if we know how these things are landing for you. Yesterday, I don't think we read any more from the book, the latest book from Guy Finley and Dr. Ellen Dickstein, and that is titled The Book of One, One Love, One Life, One Journey. And to continue with that book, unless somebody has a comment or a question, and we just like to reiterate that anytime you choose to tap in and offer a thought, it is valued. It is seen as an addition, not an interruption. So the book here goes on and says, here's how to harness universal virtues for unstoppable growth. And Guy Finley writes, one of the reasons so many of us hold on to the hope of making a fresh start, especially when we've just come to another dead end, is not only do we want to set our feet on a more personally fulfilling path, but we want one that, as we make the journey, proves itself more beneficial to others as well. So most of us aren't just selfishly wanting our own lives to be better. We understand that we're connected to others. But this wish often goes unanswered, or worse, because in this divided, troubled world of ours, along with the doubts that are sown into its constant conflict, we have the present appearance of and the evidence of a very strong cynicism. And this cynicism may cause us to question the transformative power of these higher values that we hope might serve to guide us. Never fear, he writes, these superior values are rooted in the celestial. They are indomitable. And when we put them to work in our lives, even in the smallest way, these powers, these values, these essences raise our own level. And in turn, they raise the level of the world. In even the most difficult of times, these qualities shine through the darkness to ennoble and support us. The real hope for our planet comes in remembering these principles, keeping them alive in ourselves and working to express them through all that we do. To help remind us of these truths, here are some inspiring quotes relating to some of the most eternal, universal virtues that have brightened the lives of human beings from time immemorial. Those qualities are beauty, love, kindness, humility, and friendship. He quotes William Law as saying, "One love it is that pervades the entire world, and yet few there are who know it fully. They're blind who hope, those people who hope to see it are blind by the light of reason. That reason, which is the cause of separation." So the essence of this is you can't figure it out. You can't think your way into the solution. You've got to ask to be shown. You've got to let these powers that be lift you up. Love is infallible. It has no errors, for all errors are the want of love. That's from William Law. The other was from Kabur. And then he quotes an oral tradition from the Omaha tribe that says, kindness is to use one's will to guard one's speech and conduct so as not to injure anyone. And then he quotes the Dalai Lama, says, be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. And then he quotes Lao Tzu, who says, for humility, how does the ocean become the king of all rivers and streams? Because it is lower than they are. Humility gives it its power. Humility gives it its power. And then he quotes Henry David Thoreau, humility, like darkness, reveals the heavenly lights. And then as relates to friendship, he quotes Abraham Lincoln, who said, do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? And he quotes C.S. Lewis as saying, friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, what, you too? I thought I was the only one. Guy writes, no matter how many challenges life may throw at us, beauty never ends, love is never lost, and we can always work to be kind, humble, and a true friend. So let us remember these sublime qualities and become their instrument by working to keep our attention in the present moment, where these powers can enter and express themselves through us. You know, this is a critical point. These powers can't get to you in the past and they can't get to you in the future, and yet you can invite them to be active in your life in each new present moment. His next section is titled 6 Timeless Wisdom Keys to Jumpstart Your Life. And he writes, anytime you're ready to make a fresh start, in parentheses he writes, which all of us can do at any moment that we remember to do it, close parentheses. Anytime you're ready to make a fresh start, you need only remember that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that there's nothing in this universe or any other universe that can stop you if you're willing to walk into and through whatever you made along the way. In fact, whatever seems to be in your way is part of the way. Here are some encouraging thoughts on making a new start to take with you on your journey. There are indeed friends along the way that speak to us across the ages. Meister Eckhart wrote, "Be willing to be a beginner every single morning." And Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "Finish each day and be done with it. You've done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely, and with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense." And then he quotes Anne Frank, who wrote, "How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before beginning to improve the world." And then Martin Luther King Jr., "Take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." And Guy writes, "Here are 6 laws that help to make a fresh start. The only thing that holds us down is that we don't yet know about ourselves, is whatever it is that we don't yet know about ourselves. Increasing our level of self-understanding is the same as being empowered to raise our own life level and make the changes we want. These higher discoveries call for higher learning. If it helps, look upon this important part of your inner education as a way to better understand what's been keeping you from making vital self-discoveries. Think of each of the following 6 laws as an individual magic strand of a flying carpet. Make it your aim to weave them together in your mind, and then watch how these lessons combine to lift you to the next higher and happier life level, where every moment can be a fresh start." So the first law is, quote, "Nothing can stop you from starting over," close quotes. By way of explanation, Guy writes, "The greatest power you possess for succeeding in life is your understanding that life gives you a fresh start any moment you choose to start fresh. Nothing that stood in your way, even a heartbeat before, stands there now in the same way. It's all new, even if you can't yet see it that way. You've only to test the truth of this fact about the newness of life to discover the incredible freedom that awaits for you just behind it. And then nothing can stop you. You'll know the real secret and the perfect power of starting over." Here's the second law. Quote, "Don't take the easy way," close quotes. There's no getting away from what you don't know, which is why anytime you feel compelled to go around a problem by taking the easy way, that problem always comes around again. And isn't that what makes life seem so hard? Learn to see the, quote, "easy way," close quotes, as a lying thought that keeps you tied up and doing hard time. Getting something over is not the same as having it completed. As this insight grows, you'll be understanding that the whole idea of the, quote, "hard way," close quotes, has always been just a lying thought as well. See it. The complete way is the easy way. So volunteer to make the, quote, "hard way," close quotes, your own way, and learn the real easy way. In other words, everything that you go around comes around again. You can't get away from something. The only way out is through. And through over and over again, understanding that you can ask to be taught and get access to these powers is a life changer. So the first law is nothing can stop you from starting over. And the second law is don't take the easy way. The third law is on the other side of the resistance is the flow. On the other side of the resistance is the flow. And he writes, there are often times when it feels as though you can't go any further in your work or studies. But you can learn to go beyond any blockage. Make the following clear to yourself. Those moments when it feels as though you're least able to get beyond yourself, these moments are not telling you that you've gone as far as you can go, but they only reveal that you've reached as far as you know for now. This higher self-knowledge about your true inner position always allows you to see the resistance you're feeling for what it really is. It's a threshold, not a closed door. Walk over it. On the other side of the resistance is the flow. To go beyond you is to enter the new. So when you believe that you've gone as far as you can go, what's really happening is you've just gone as far as you know. And one of Guy Finley's other talks, the punchline is coming to me here, who I have been in the past is powerless to take me any further. So it's not the obstacle that's the problem, it's what I'm trying to carry over or through the obstacle that's the problem. Here's the fourth law. Learn to see conclusions as limitations. And Guy writes, if you approach the possibilities of learning about your life as being limitless, which they are, then it follows that any conclusion you reach about yourself has to be an unseen limitation. Why? Because there's always more to see. For instance, let yourself see that all conclusions are illusions when it comes to the security that they promise. There may be security in a prison, but there are also no choices behind its confining walls. Learn to see all conclusions about yourself as invisible cells, for that's what they are. The seeming security that these conclusions offer are a poor substitute for the real security of knowing that who you really are is always free to be something higher. The real security comes from knowing that who you really are is always free to be something higher. The fifth law is, have no fear of being afraid. And Guy Finley writes, fear can't learn, which is why you must learn about fear if you ever wish to be a fearless learner. This guy likes his double entendre and his double negatives and his coming full circle. So fear can't learn, which is why you must learn about fear if you ever wish to be a fearless learner. So the first thing you must learn is how to get past your fear of being afraid. Here's how. The next time a fear of some kind tries to fill one of your moments, try to see the difference between the fact of your situation and your feelings about it. This is the right use of your mind. For instance, it's a fact that interest rates change. It's not a fact that you have to get scared when they do. That fear is not a fact of life, but only becomes one for you as long as you insist that life perform according to what you think are your best interests. As you learn to see that these fearful feelings don't belong to you, but only to your wrong thinking, then you cease to be afraid, even of your own fears. And this is a tricky bit, this thing about fear. It comes around through Guy Finley's teachings and the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery. There's only, love or fear, and only love is real. So there is this illusion, there is this dream of separation, there is this energy that we experience as tightness or tension that we've associated with the word fear and danger or vulnerability, etc. And yet, while there's no way to avoid having that energy arise and move through me, and I wouldn't want to because it's a part of an alarm system that works really well, but not only can I not control, I don't need to control it. I just don't need to let it control me. So this is important. We're not saying here that you should be so locked down with all of your thoughts and responses that you don't allow fear to arise. What we're talking about is the recognition that this energy that we experience as physical sensations and thoughts attached to it that we call fear, it's never designed to be our boss or our master. It's just one little gauge on a big complex panel of gauges that gives us a piece of information or some pieces of information. But it's never meant to be the driver for all of our decisions and behaviors. I had somebody recently was telling me about a problem they were having with their car and a light that said there's a problem. And essentially it's a critical light, talks about the oil pressure and whether or not, there's oil in the engine and whether or not the engine is going to function properly or freeze up and be absolutely a piece of scrap metal. And there are a number of other points of information that a person needs to use to determine what's going on after they see the little red light or the little orange light show up on their dash. But if you say the little orange light is just like fear, right? That's the piece of the, but then there's also all of these other data points in life that aren't about my fear, but they're about the situation. And I can look at those. And if I'm not letting the fear drive my behavior or my perception, I can use some of these other pieces of information to navigate through life quite effectively. And so this person did that. They were out, they were on a trip, they were away from home, but they knew a little bit about how cars function, so they stopped the car right away and they checked the oil, and there was oil in there, and they checked the coolant, and there's coolant in there, and they checked the thermometer temperature on the engine was not too high, so they reasoned that, okay, there's something going on here other than what the light wants me to believe, right? The light is the fear. And fear wants me to believe, run away, hide in a hole, duck, don't do anything, don't take action, everything's going to fall apart if you do the wrong thing. That was never intended to be our boss. It was just intended to be one little piece of information. And so in the Way of Mastery, it says, listen, when you understand how this system works, you'll never again fear fear. You'll have the energy of fear come up. You'll have it move through you. You'll be aware of it because you're processing your emotions. You're awake and aware as a human being. You're using all these senses that you have and all the alarm systems that are built in. You just don't fear the energy of fear. You recognize it as an input, as a data point. And then you go and collect other information and you make your best guess about how to be a blessing to yourself and others as you move forward in the next moment. And life starts to unfold in ways that are far better than any you could have imagined. But you're not going to figure it out. So here's the sixth law. Persistence always prevails. And Guy writes, part of the power of persistence is to hold you in place until either the world aligns with your wish or you see that your wish is out of line. But whichever way turns the moment, you'll have won what only persistence can pay, and that is as follows. If you get what you think you have to be happy and you're still not content, then you've learned that doesn't work. Now you can go on to higher things. And you should learn you've been wearing yourself out with useless wishes. Then this discovery allows you to turn your energies into a new direction, the direction perhaps of self-liberation. So in this little segment in the book by Guy Finley and Dr. Ellen Dickstein, the book is titled The Book of One, One Love, One Life, One Journey. He wants to introduce us to 6 timeless laws, timeless wisdom's keys. The first one is, nothing can stop you from starting over. The second one is, don't take the easy way, because the easy way is really the hard way. The easy way means I'm trying to avoid the issue, which means the issue has to keep coming around again and again and again until I finally wake up and realize I haven't learned the lesson that this situation is trying to bring me. The third law is, on the other side of resistance is the flow. So this is why in the Way of Mastery, in the 5th lesson, it says, look, the keys to the kingdom are desire, intention, allowance, and surrender and humility. On the other side of resistance is the flow. If you go with the flow, if you move into allowance, if you move into acceptance, if you move into trust and embracing all that is, you transcend all that is. The 4th law says, learn to see conclusions as limitations. If you are part of an ever-expanding consciousness, an infinite being, an intelligent consciousness, an intelligent being, an intelligent awareness, and you're a part of that, you will never be done learning about yourself because you're always growing. You're always part of the life and creation that is expanding. So if you're always growing, any definition you give yourself, any limitation you put on yourself, or any conclusion you hold about yourself is a limitation. It blocks you from learning more about who you truly are. It blocks you from growing. And it sets up false restrictions and limitations. The 5th law says, have no fear of being afraid. Learn about fear. Because fear can't learn, so you must learn about fear if you ever wish to be a fearless learner. Learn about it, and then when it arises, you'll just see it as another good reference point, another good bit of information, or another good sounding of an alarm. And the 6th law is that persistence always prevails. And if you stick with things, and you stick with whatever you think is the truth, Guy Finley has a line where he says, you can't take an action in your life without truth showing you whether or not you're stepping in the right direction, whether you're on the right path. Just try, just do, just be out there being and doing, and keep your eyes open, and the results you get will be your teacher. The next section he's titled, The Power of Now. Choose self-renewal moment by moment. In this section he says, here's an important idea that we always seem to forget, especially when life seems to run against our wishes, and it feels as if all is in vain yet again. No matter what we've done or who we've been, we always have the choice to start anew, to be reborn. Throughout the ages, great souls have pointed to the continuing cycle of rebirth, that even in the darkest moments of our life, a new light can be born that illuminates or transforms not just how we see the world in that moment, but actually transforms the world that we see. Here are some inspiring quotes to help us make the life-affirming choice as it presents itself in each new moment. So here are some inspiring quotes to help us make the life-affirming choice as that life-affirming choice presents itself in each new moment. Rig Veda from the 2nd millennium BCE wrote, "Life, death, and rebirth are inevitable." And then the Buddha wrote, "Each morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most." And then Henry Frederick Amiel writes, "So long as a person is capable of self-renewal, they are a living being." And G.K. Chesterton wrote, "The object of a new year is not that we should have a new year, but rather that we should have a new soul." And Finley writes, "When it comes to the possibility of spiritual growth, it isn't that the divine doesn't will this for all his earth-clad children. Quite the contrary, in this world of ours, the goodness of God's will is always active through his offspring. What nullifies the birth of this eternal life within us is that we have yet to learn how to ask and receive it. What is freely offered to us goes unaccepted because we haven't yet the heart to surrender for ourselves, to surrender ourselves for it. We simply can't let go. Too many parts of us cling to their feeling, and altogether this conditional sense of self, so that we remain willful and self-certain instead of being reborn as a citizen of heaven. For anyone willing to see the truth of this secret self-centeredness and the sorrow of the separate sense of existence that it perpetuates, this unseen state of arrogance may be found running through many, if not all, of our prayers. Just see how the sense of I dominates our dialogues with God. With this finding, we must ask ourselves a spiritually telling question. How many times need the word I appear in any prayer focused on thy will be done? How many times do you need to use the word I to say the prayer, thy will be done? And the idea here is that even if we're beating ourselves up and feeling that we're a horrible, miserable failure, what we're doing in that moment is we're separating ourselves out from the flow of life and from our Creator. So whether we think we're better than somebody or we think we're worse than somebody, we're still perpetuating that dream of separation, which is the root of all of our psychological suffering. Guy Finley goes on, in the majority of our supplications to God, a perpetual sense of what I want rests squarely above all that it requests. Virtually undetected by us is that this same petitioning nature sits there within us as a would-be ruler over the very relationship that it asks God to come and be the king of. We are betrayed in the very core of ourselves by an imagined wealth of insecurity coupled with certainty. We are betrayed in the very core of ourselves by an imagined wealth of insecurity. Well, I'm misreading it. That's why it didn't sound so right to me. We're betrayed in the very core of ourselves with an imagined wealth of sincerity and certainty. In these self-pleasing states, we will find ample amounts of selfish motive and its attendant means, neither of which, it turns out, can bring about the release of any of the Creator's good grace. What must be done spiritually is the undoing of self, something that this earthbound nature has neither the will nor the heart to do. And that's precisely the point. Once we can see that of ourselves we can do nothing, because in reality we are nothing as we imagine ourselves to be, once we imagine that and we see that we ourselves can do nothing, then empowered and rightly emboldened by this light of higher understanding, higher self-understanding, then we can agree to our nothingness, our poverty before the Creator. Here in this conscious prostration, in other words, throwing ourselves down and understanding our true role is to be lived, not to be, is that we are being lived. Someone is living through us, seeing through us, breathing through us. Some life force intelligence is animating us. We aren't the be-all and end-all. We are part of everything that is. Here in that conscious prostration, laying ourselves low, we've let go of the illusion of our will in favor of the reality of His will, its will, God's will, to run our lives. This is the right request. It is the sacrifice that is the seed of spiritual rebirth. And if you take that step, it will be done. Right? If you ask to be shown, you will be shown. There's this quote from one of Guy Finley's talks where he says that the Creator didn't just put you in a place where if you work really hard and you travel the globe and you hike in the Himalayan mountains and explore all these caves, you might one day stumble across a guru who could teach you what you need to learn to move forward in life, to be happy, etc. But he said, the Creator didn't just put you in a world where you might maybe someday find an answer or a guru. He writes, the Creator put you in a world where your instant, constant connection to that which can teach you and lift you up, that will never abandon you if you just ask to be taught, if you just ask to be lifted up. And I've been, uh, really, really coming at this from a lot of directions lately, that we are not going to figure this out. We are not going to think our way to a solution to these problems. And yet, if we will do what Einstein and Edison and the other great minds, Tesla, etc., will direct us to, and put the conscious logical mind in its proper place as a tool, and explore and build our facility with our intuitive mind, that creative source, that connection to our inner wisdom, and actually, individually, don't worry if anybody else ever does this, but you can change things up for yourself. You can see the true nature of your thoughts about yourself. You can understand that with that conscious logical mind, and neuroscience today tells us that if I really focus and concentrate, I'll be able to be aware of about 5 out of every 100 thoughts that run through my mind. And that's probably a generous assessment. Then that mind that's only able to track 5% of what's going on within its own functioning, that mind was never designed to be my boss, to be my primary user interface with life. That mind is just a little tool. It's like one chisel in a set of a 1,000-piece toolkit. It's just a little tool. And the vastness of the system we're living in, the energies that surround us, the energies that animate us, the energies that we are, given dominion over is so vast compared to what our mind can track that it isn't even funny. It's tremendous, unweaning arrogance to think that we're going to sort something out with our conscious logical mind. And so the invitation is there to study it and understand it and question it and continually ask to be taught. Yes, Donald says, I can't find that new book. And that's true because it's a pre-release copy. Donald, this is a book that we were able to purchase or to take home as a nice little gift in our doggy bag if we made a donation. When Guy Finley was wrapping up his 25 years of talks in the Pines in Grants Pass, just outside of Grants Pass in Oregon. So I understand your frustration. I don't know if there is going to be a release date for this. This book literally says on the back, 2025 Life of Learning Foundation, Publisher's Advance Copy, not for resale. So I don't know if they're planning a release date or if they just intended to have this be part of a marketing tool that he can use for other things. I don't know. So, questions, comments, answers, testimonials. The primary reason that I was going off on that side tangent is that if this conscious logical mind of mine is so small and has so little access to the big picture, right, and to the unseen dynamics that are motivating these things, if I'm so little aware of the truth of what's happening, then it's just ridiculous for me to think that my anger means I'm right. So in the core of this work, the fundamental assumption, and not assumption, but observation that we keep coming back to is I'm the one that's creating any emotions that I experience. And I can experience any emotion that I want to create. I have the freedom to do that. So if we just keep coming back to the basics, if we just understand these great teachings that say, look, the great teachers never abandon the basics. The great teachers, the great masters are only masters if they have mastered the art of always being a perpetually avid student. Right? And the minute I stop learning, the minute I stop opening myself to learning, I create a prison for myself. I'm actually in the deterioration process in that moment. So, there was a case in point last night. Somebody was trying to do a worksheet in the support group, and it seemed as though whatever I said or did was met with irritation or frustration on the part of the other person. And after a while, I noticed myself kind of scrambling around trying to figure out what can I say or do to keep the process moving and address the emotions that are up for the person. And there was no solution to be had. There was no way out of the maze that I was stuck in. And so, the actual in the moment awareness of tension arising in me was my alarm system to let me know that something about how I'm perceiving this interaction is off the mark. Something about where I'm trying to get this interaction to move to is not where the interaction needs to go. And I'm not, I'm in resistance rather than going with the flow. So I needed to just get into the flow and release the resistance to find out where can this go. However, what we're taught in our culture is that if we're interacting with somebody and they take offense, either they're wrong or we're wrong. Or if somebody has a tone of irritation or anger, that it's perfectly okay for us to shut this thing down or to attack them or to blame them for our upset or to throw back on them something that, well, you're the one creating your own emotions and I have nothing to do with that. And so I'm literally using my words and tones as an attack on them. Even though the words I'm saying might be true, it might be true that I can't create their emotions, but making an observation that same observation that's dripping with compassion has a whole different feel to it than one that's dripping with accusation. So please remember, what we're trying to do with this work is keep all of us much more centered, more firmly aligned with direct observation in each moment. Awareness and direct observation in each moment. And that direct observation is going to reveal to me I'm the one creating my experience of life. In this moment, when my mind, this conscious logical part of me, offers up a label or an understanding of something that's negative about another person, it's not the truth. If it's negative about me, it's not the truth. It's an old tape playing. It's coming from the past. Even if it's got a very powerful logical structure that leads to a negative conclusion, if it's a negative conclusion, I can know that there are some false premises in that logical system. And so I don't need to believe it. I don't need to take action on it. I can use it as the impetus to get another look, to back up, to take a break, to breathe and soften, to cancel my goals, to become aware of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish in the moment that I don't have the ability to accomplish. And if I can just soften and shift the focus of my attention away from those things that I don't have any control over, my life situation is going to improve. It's fascinating for me when I listen again to, like I watch a video with Anil Seth where he talks about the power of our perception and how active our perception is, and essentially how when my mind creates an image of something, when I'm looking out at my office or I'm out taking a walk outside, when I'm looking at the image that shows up in my mind holds so much data, but only about 20% of that is coming from my eyes. 80% is getting dredged up from the past. It's this vibrational alignment of things that are, oh, that makes me think of that, and oh, that leads to this, and oh, now that makes me think of that, and oh, I smell that, and it takes me back to when I was in 5th grade. And so all of these things coming from my past, 80% of what's going into every picture my mind shows me in the moment is coming from the past. Now, there are ways in which that's a good thing, right? Pattern recognition. If I stumble over a big tree root on this hike, I probably won't stumble over it again, right? If I have an experience and it's unpleasant, I can learn from it. If I create an automatic response pattern to something that was a danger or did lead to a pain in my past, that's a good thing. In its place, it's a good thing. But it's not supposed to be the primary user interface for my life. I'm not supposed to be sleepwalking through life on autopilot. What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. In truth, I don't know. But I do know that there are options that I prefer. There are options to anger that I prefer that include softening, allowing, turning the focus inside, releasing attachments to judgments, releasing my attachment to being right. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change. I literally was using that pattern last night in the worksheet process just to try and soften or unravel the tension and frustration that was going on between myself and the person who was trying to do the worksheet. If we understand that we are the ones that create our own emotions, if we learn more and more in these very practical set of tools that Michael and Jeannie offer to step into closer and closer to 100% responsibility for everything we experience in life, our lives will start to go better. Our lives will start to go better by leaps and bounds. I think Sally just wrote that I was canceling goals or canceling needs also during that. It's a powerful thing if we can just if you stay right there at home base, and every time you get upset, you just start to slow down the breath, turn the focus inside, and ask yourself, how am I creating this upset? The better we get at recognizing the earliest warning signs of those upsets, the better our life quality is going to be, because we're going to spend much less time in the negative emotions because we interrupt the process. We turn off the alarm and we turn our focus to what the alarm is telling us. Something's wrong with my thought process. If I'm angry, if I'm sad, if I'm scared, if I'm hurt, if I'm feeling guilty, shamed, afraid, grief, something's off the mark, and I don't need to just keep careening down the mountainside in my car without putting my hands on the wheel. I can grab a hold of this thing and I can exert some force and I can release attachments so that the resistance moves away and I move into the flow. I move into an alliance with the flow of life. I look at whatever happens in the day and I say, okay, this is happening. What's mine to do to be a blessing to myself and others in this moment with this happening? And if we can get people to start doing that on a regular basis, and those same people have been introduced to these powerful and practical tools, their lives are going to start changing to the degree to which they actively apply these tools in their lives and apply them to the things they actually have control over. So that's my offering for today, hoping that we can be here to remind each other that this is not about right, wrong, good, bad, up, down, judgments. This is about a practical set of tools to help me live a life that I prefer living, to help me get the most out of this life, and to minimize the amount of time that I spend generating and then bemoaning the fact that I'm generating these negative emotional states. So, comments, questions, thoughts, answers, testimonials. We have a few minutes. What's on people's mind? Today's a Wednesday, so there won't be a support group today, but there will be one tomorrow. So who do we have? Is that Sally?
Sally, yeah, Sally here. I am so grateful that you're sharing the guy Finley and what's her name again?
It's Ellen Dickstein.
Ellen Dickstein. I'm so glad you're sharing that book. I must have the mind cells or whatever they are.
Brain cells?
Brain cells, yeah. Because I have done so much foundational work, and I'm just really grateful for the messages in that material. And the other thing I will say is thank you for processing a little bit about last night. I think I needed to do that too. And I just felt you did a monumental job of managing yourself and the flow. I love the metaphor you used of when you're into your car and careening down the mountain, resistance isn't helpful, but flow is. And as a skier, I have a lot of felt sense memories about how that works. And so I'm at the gym, so I'm a little winded, but always grateful for you and always grateful for this time together.
Well, and you're welcome and deserving. And when you say grateful for me, I want to correct that because what you're really grateful for, what you're really seeing, what you were seeing last night, and what you might see any time I'm having a good day is the effect of the power of the principles acting through me because I'm willing to use the tools and because I'm willing to ask to be shown. But there's clearly, I mean, I know there are a lot of people that won't believe this, but clearly no part of my mind last night at the intellectual level that was of any help whatsoever.
I
Every
understand.
every direction it went in, everything it tried got shut down.
I'm chuckling because I was watching my mind do very similar things. And I I think a number of people shared at times they wanted to laugh and at times they went into frustration and it was just kind of like a fascinating thing to be able to debrief and to remember you're absolutely right. It's the tool, it's the process, it's the commitment to using it and keep using it.
Yeah, and anybody who does will start seeing those kinds of results in their life, the kind that they prefer.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Amen.
it's not Dr. Tim, right? It's not Dr. Michael. It's just the tools. And when they're used, when I use the tools from I'm the supplicant, right? I'm asking to be taught. I'm understanding this isn't my rodeo. I'm not running the show here.
Mm-hmm.
When I do that, the positive results that you see are the result of that, not the great and powerful Dr. Hayes. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. You know,
Yeah,
it's
good.
not it's not the individual powering through. It's what you're seeing and the results that you liked was